Katherine Schweit is back with us tonight. She's a retired FBI special agent and the author of Stop the Killing, How to End the Mass Shooting Crisis. Ms. Schweit, you and I talked maybe 4 days ago, and we knew we would talk again. I didn't think it would be this soon. And this time, I mean, there's tragedy. This is also very complex. The shooter is a former student, a biological female who transitioned to transgender male. The police chief said there is a manifesto. This was a targeted attack. And, quote, there is some theory, he says, the shooter's gender identity played a role. As an expert in the field, what is your initial assessment here?
Well, a couple of things that I like the way you brought some of those facts in, because, you know, we really, I think what that shows more than anything else is that there isn't a profile, right? There's lots of reasons why people develop grievances, and then some of them choose to act out. And this is I think we're going to see this is another example of that. It's so frustrating because we want to have an answer, and we want to know that we can find somebody who's going to do this. But what we really know is that a lot of people have grievances in their lifetime for different reasons, and that some of them projected all the way out to violence. And I think that details will come out in the I don't call them a manifesto, but these are just writings of a troubled person, will help give us a lot more details. But clearly what we've already heard from the law enforcement is that this person intended to go into that direction because she had a problem with that school for whatever reason. It might have been the principal, it might have been one of the adults that was targeted, and it's sad. We're going to find that out, but it's frustrating.
And I appreciate you being circumspect, not trying to use glamorous language like manifesto or something like that. And also, we don't have all the details, but when a reporter today asked the chief of police, does this person's gender identity have to do with this, he stopped for maybe 5 seconds and said, we'll tell you more about that.
I saw that. Yeah,
should this be investigated as a hate crime, perhaps, against this religious school?
I don't think it would fit into the category of hate crime. Speaking as a former federal officer, it's not a hate crime situation, but it's clearly a situation that, based on, I saw that Chief's reaction too. I think he was thinking definitely that frustration of having to be at this school. But again, always as an investigator, let's wait and get the facts, so to speak, right? But the idea could be that it wasn't that it was that she was being told she had to go to this Christian school, that she had to go to that school, and her other friends were going to local public high school. So, but I think that was the impression that I got from the chief too. And I think we're going to probably, before the night is out, get more details on that it's not, as like you said, a hate crime, but more the idea that that particular location, maybe they just didn't accept her, and she felt very uncomfortable, or maybe she heard somebody say something. And again, I'm just speculating too, but I think it's logical that at her age, she heard something from within that community. Remember, there's a church attached to it, and that's her neighborhood, that's her school. So that's part of her community, and she's, for whatever reason, angry at that community. And it's so sad that it's turned out this way.
If there was that feeling of dejection or being upset, I would love to explore in the coming days why that would definitively not be a hate crime. But I don't want to lose track tonight of these families, these kids. Because I went through, on the first day of school this year, the Covenant School posted a blog to preschool moms and kindergarten moms and dads, I'd imagine. And part of it reads this, quote, "Despite all that happens at school, you, yes, you, are still your child's safe place. No matter what happens at school, you are the one your child will always look to. First, for love and security, your arms are the ones that your child will always run to for comfort in good times and bad. And let me tell you a secret, there is nothing better than the look in your baby's eyes when they first spot you after school, bubbling over with excitement to see you and tell you about their day. It is a precious thing. So get ready. This is happening." And Katherine, I mean, what do you say? Your daughter's a teacher. I think my boys this morning, I left them, they were wearing a Buzz Lightyear and Woody costumes, right. And we go to pre-K this fall. I'm thinking these kids' parents, they brushed their hair and they kissed them and said, "Have a good day." What are people supposed to do?
I think it's so hard because we never, I think in general, we never lived with this reality before. And I guess I would just say this, even though maybe it's not encouraging today, but maybe it'll be encouraging tomorrow to know that these types of shootings are so rare. And we do have a terrible a problem epidemic of gun violence in this country, that children and teens, the most serious reason for death, and according to the CDC, for children and teens is gun violence. But the vast majority of that is never in a school. There's more at home and in the neighborhoods. And so even though this unthinkable thing has happened, it really still is a rare circumstance. And I guess it kind of speaks to the fact that everybody out there who is worried about that little child coming back to their arms and running into their arms when they hop off the bus or run down the street has to think about what can they do personally to get engaged and involved with the schools around, with the people around their neighborhood.
Yeah, I get that. And I appreciate you keeping a level head. And, I did want to keep ourselves honest too, because we talk and then we want to check back in with what we've said. Like I talked to you last week and I had mentioned boys, and I guess in this case you'd say cisgender boys are typically the perpetrators. Most shootings are at urban schools, not suburban schools or private schools. And you dipped into the data. You said this, let me just share.
There are so many other deaths by gun violence that we don't really cover. And so it really disproportionately creates this fear in our parents and our children that in order to go to school, they have to risk their lives, when in fact, their risk is higher at the grocery store or higher at the ballpark or higher at the concert they're going to see or the movie. So we don't really address our fears accurately, I think, when it comes to gun violence in schools. Schools are safer than homes. More kids are killed in homes than they are in schools.
Katherine, you and I both talked about this stuff. And I know that, we don't want to scare our kids by putting them in fortresses, but we also do want them, we need them to be safe. And honestly, a lot of parents feel like, data be damned. I want a police officer there. I want a gun in the office so they can shoot this person the moment they walk through the door. Given your experience, what do you say?
Yeah, I think that there's word today that this shooter might have shot through the door. That would probably be one of one or two handful, situations, but Sandy Hook was one of them where a shooter went through the doorway. And, law enforcement can only just get there. They can get there and minimize the deaths. That's what they can do. And that is why, I'm a firm believer in, you are the first responder. It doesn't always have to mean with a firearm. And I can tell you, certainly you look at a situation where you have a big school district, a big school complex that has lots of floors and lots of buildings. So there's no great single solution to say, if we have one person with a gun on the campus, that's going to solve all the problems. But school districts that are choosing to put school resource officers, skilled officers in their schools, that's a good thing for a lot of reasons. And I support school resource officers in schools for that reason.
Understood. Finally here, the school website for Covenant School has their mission on every single page, which I loved the mission. It said, shepherding hearts, empowering minds, celebrating childhood. And this is such a short period of time, special time in these kids' lives, and it's every parent's dream that they go and they feel that at school. But then you look at today, and a lot of people who felt like, I don't trust public schools. I'll send my kid to a private school. They'll be safer there. And it can feel like places aren't safe. Now, I know you're data-driven and you're keeping your wits about you. Where would you put your child in a kindergarten in public school today?
I would. I don't think it's a numbers game in either way in terms of public or private school. I think that some private schools might be smaller. I know I have great nieces and nephews that go to a small Catholic school like this, and it's a smaller school. They're able to put more money into security. Public schools, sometimes they're huge and they have to have budgets that work with that and hundreds of doors. And so it is more complicated. I think you look to the school that your child is going to go into and look to see what kind of security they have. That's what I would say, because I don't think it's public or private or as much as it is what kind of security is your school district willing to have, and what are they doing proactively to protect your child and not just in a classroom, but before school, when they're coming to school, when they're leaving school, when they're in the lunchroom.
Yeah. Retired FBI special agent and author of Stop the Killing, How to End the Mass Shooting Crisis, Katherine Schweit. Katherine, thank you for coming back tonight. I really wanted to follow up again with you. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
And you can support the families of the victims by donating to the fund on your screen if you'd like. You can visit